Last week, I spoke with two business owners in completely different industries, but they had the same problem. And that stated problem was that their content was falling flat and they needed to fix it. In those conversations, we touched on three things that would begin to help them move out of that flat space. And if you're in the same place, this is going to help you. The first thing I noticed in looking at their content is that they were halfway committed to content creation. Now, I'm not talking about the number of posts or how frequent they are posting, but the attitude and approach towards content creation. And this was evident because they were creating content that relied on entrepreneurial motivation. Think of a quote next to a picture of Steve Jobs: expertism without education, meaning we're saying we're the expert, but we're not giving you anything that you can take away and test and deploy or share. And then tips and tricks at this point that are far beyond common knowledge. And they were doing all of this because they were playing it safe. They didn't want to take risks. They didn't want to fail, but they were guaranteeing that they don't improve. And this was the course of action because they were overlooking their creative advantage. You might be doing the same thing. If you have customers who trust you to deliver results, you have proven processes and systems, and you have people alongside you with their skills, talents, and ability, all bringing that to the table to keep the promises you make, this is where your creative advantage lives. This is where you can pull this is where you pull the content. This is where you pull the stories. This is where you pull the things to share that resonate with the person you help most. And this applies to both brand and personal platforms. The second thing that was evident was that they were not boiling content creation down to understand what consumers respond to today. Whether it's creativity, leadership, or business at large, these things live on a spectrum of interest to action. And in the middle, you have confidence, and confidence is just a complete or necessary level of trust someone needs to take any of the available actions you have for them. So what does this look like through the lens of content? How do you move them along that spectrum through content? There are a multitude of lanes. I tend to focus on three. The first lane is the story lane. And in the story lane, you're going to share the world you're building, the changes you seek to make and for whom, and the other people involved with you, other players you have to interact with, and the problems you all incur along the way. And when you do this, you create a narrative of being the type of person or the type of people that say, this is possible. We believe this is possible. We put our flag here and we say, this is what we're doing. And when you do that, you invite opposition and hate, but you also invite those to support you and join you and cheer you on. And all of that means you are no longer flat. The second lane is the proof lane. And here in the proof lane, you're going to show the work you complete, you're going to detail the changes you make, and you're going to outline the principles, systems, and processes that influence the change you make. Why do you do this with the people you help? When you do this, you create a narrative of what's probable in associating with you, in however manner they associate, whether it's just watching, whether it's sharing, whether it's getting connected with you, and ultimately working with you. The third lane is the expert explorer lane, and this blends the two. When you're wearing the expert hat, you step out in front and you step out to give something of value from your knowledge, your experiences, your know-how, but you're committing to give something of value, not just position as the expert. And the other side is when you're facing new territories, new seasons, new places you haven't been in, you put your explorer hat on and you say, this is what I'm learning. You say that proudly. This is what we're learning. This is what we're facing. This is what we thought we knew before. All three of these lanes put you in a position of serving the interests of the consumer who's listening, reading, watching. And when you do that, you cannot remain flat for too long. The last thing is your team is in creative handcuffs. In any organization, you have a multitude of people who have different skills, knowledge, experiences, passions, but these people largely go unheard from, even in 2025. And there's various reasons for that, but here are just a few. I don't want to get fired. I don't want my boss to think I'm competing with them. I have to protect the company brand. Or on the leadership side, we don't want them to leave the company. All of this indicates that there's a culture of fear in your organization, and you need to address that because you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because at the end of the day, people, and that includes future customers, do things with people they know, like, and trust. You know this, you've lived this, you've built the business to this point on that truth, whether you know it or not. And the same applies to your content creation and your brand growth. So if you will use your creative advantage and commit to improving at using it, you begin to boil content creation down to understand what consumers respond to, and you set yourself and your people free to create without fear, you will not remain flat because you'll be showing up for the interests of the person you're best fit to help or who's most interested in the success that you can bring. All of that moves you out of the flat position. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them or send me a message. I try to respond to everything. Take care.